Hey there, I'm Will Doyle, and I'm a game director with Supermassive Games here in the UK. Today, I'd like to talk to you about House of Ashes, the third game in the Dark Pictures Anthology. Normally, in the run-up to launch, we'd be getting the game into your hands at shows and game events around the world. Unfortunately, that's just not possible with the world as it is right now. So today, I'd like to do the next best thing and take you through some of the game myself, so that you can get a sense of how unique House of Ashes is, and what you can expect from it when it launches later this year. The Dark Pictures Anthology is a series of standalone narrative horror games where the fates of the 5 characters that you play are entirely in your hands. The choices that you make determine how their story branches out, and ultimately determines the endings that they receive. Everyone can live, everyone can die, but the story never stops. If a character dies, there's no reset to go back. Each game in the anthology has multiple endings, because we know that our fans like to replay them several times to discover all of the possibilities. All of our games also have some basis in a real-world fact or legend. Our first game, Man of Medan, had the legend of the Oran Medan. Then Little Hope explored Salem and the Andover witch trials. House of Ashes explores a new mystery, one that is older than anything we've dealt with before.
What is this place?
The original teaser trailer for House of Ashes unlocked when you finished Little Hope and is now available online. So what do we know so far? We know it's set in the Middle East and it deals with a military unit running into trouble deep underground. At the end of the teaser, we saw our star character, played by Ashley Tisdale, wading through a river of blood and bones, holding a human thigh bone for a torch. And she's clearly not alone down there. There are monsters in the dark. So how did she get there? House of Ashes is set back in 2003, at the close of hostilities in the Iraq War. Hunting for weapons of mass destruction, a team comprising US Special Forces, Air Force and CIA is sent on a mission to unearth an underground chemical weapons depot that's been picked up on satellite. Arriving on the scene, they come under attack by holdout Iraqi forces. And during the firefight, an earthquake pitches both sides into the ground below, where they discover a vast underground temple dating back to the ancient kingdom of Akkad. A temple that is home to a very real threat, a nest of monsters that are hungry for blood. Our heroes went looking for weapons of mass destruction, but they uncovered something far, far worse. Something very, very old.
This place doesn't look much like a weapons silo to me.
Mesopotamia, the historic land that includes what is now Iraq, was the cradle of civilization. Its written records date back almost 6,000 years. The temple that dwells at the heart of our game was built by a real-world historical figure, the self-proclaimed God King of the Akkadian Empire, Naram Sin, who reigned around 2250 BC. Naram Sin is said to have upset the gods and brought a curse down on his people by ransacking a temple belonging to Enlil, the god of earth, wind and storms. The gods brought war, famine and plague on his kingdom. In our story, Naram Sin builds this huge temple as a peace offering to the gods to lift the curse, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Akkad falls, and Naram Sin's temple is buried under the desert sands, only to be rediscovered millennia later.
There was a way in for these people, there's a way out for us.
Let's take a look around.
I won't give away too much of the story, but our protagonists find themselves trapped underground between 2 separate groups of enemies, those from above and those from below. To survive, they must forge an alliance with their enemies from the surface.
I think it's just you and me.
Along the way, they'll unravel the mysteries of this ancient temple.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Our first trailer gave you a glimpse of Ashley Tisdale's character, CIA officer Rachel King.
Did you see Sergeant K?
Alongside 2 of the Marines that you can play in the game, Jason Kolchak.
Where on God's green earth have we landed?
And Nick Kay.
What is this place?
In our latest trailer, we see Rachel exploring underground with her husband, Colonel Eric King.
Looks old.
Old? It's ancient. But that's cuneiform.
Later, we meet the 5th playable character from our game, Iraqi officer Salim Othman, as he encounters something deadly and horrific lurking in the shadows.
Pazuzu.
Pazoo who?
Pazuzu. Do you not watch horror movies?
When creating our Dark Pictures games, we take inspiration from many sources. In House of Ashes, you'll notice inspiration from films such as Aliens, Predator, and The Descent. We've also delved into the wealth of horror literature available. House of Ashes takes some inspiration from the works of H.P. Lovecraft, in particular, the novel At the Mountains of Madness. At its heart, House of Ashes is an exploration horror, a group of experts on a critical mission in a remote location, cut off from any backup, facing an inhuman enemy threat.
Who's there?
It's also a story about loyalty, duty, and trust. Characters are always at the heart of our stories, and when faced with overwhelming odds, each character in House of Ashes must decide whether to save their own hide or set aside their personal rivalries and prejudices and work together to survive.
If we fight together, we may get through this.
It's a damn sight better than the alternative.
Along the way, you'll face really difficult dilemmas around survival and collaboration. What risks will you take to ensure nobody gets left behind? And when all hell breaks loose, is there any place left for compassion? Or is it just look after number one?
Show some mercy, please!
Of course, it wouldn't be a Dark Pictures game without some terrible danger waiting to befall our protagonists. And in House of Ashes, the threat is very real. The creatures in House of Ashes are some of the most complicated we've ever made, but through hand animation and motion capture, we've created a monster that is very believable, very threatening, and very dangerous. And there's a whole nest of them down there waiting for you.
They're close. Fired up. You're crazy.
Our environments are often claustrophobic and enclosed, but regularly open out into vast, magnificent spaces. We want you to feel exposed, vulnerable, and threatened, to get the feeling you're being watched at all times by creatures you know nothing about. But we also want to reveal an unknown world below the surface, a place of majesty and mystery that has lain undisturbed for millennia.
Sergeant K, pull yourself together. Eyes wide.
I saw something.
If you've played previous Dark Pictures games, you'll get an instant feel for the game mechanics.
We need to get out of here right now.
However, we're always looking to improve our games, and we're always grateful for the comments that we've received from you, our community, which have helped us to focus on the areas that matter most to you. In House of Ashes, you'll see many improvements to the way the game handles. Fixed cameras have been entirely replaced with a 360-degree player-controlled camera, which makes exploration much more immersive. This is helped by the inclusion of a new flashlight button. Using the flashlight lets you sweep the dark for secrets and uncover new paths, but slows you down a little. You'll come to rely on it as you delve into some of the darker sections of the catacombs. We're also adding difficulty settings to the game, so that you can tailor the game to the experience you're looking for, easy, medium, or no holds barred difficult. Our fan feedback around QTEs shows that you're quite divided on this issue. Some of you think they're too hard, while others think they're too easy. Setting difficulty for QTEs lets you tailor the speed of the QTEs to your own skill set. House of Ashes is also our first title to include enhanced versions for next-gen consoles, and on those formats, you'll see a marked improvement in overall graphical fidelity.
You weren't to blame for that crash.
Come on, let's get to work.
As with Man of Medan and Little Hope, House of Ashes features 4 main modes. Shared Story, which allows you to play through the whole game online with a friend. Movie Night, which supports up to 5 players in the same room, and 2 separate single-player paths, the main theatrical cut and the Curator's Cut, which is available as a pre-order bonus. On Curator's Cut, you get to experience the story from the perspective of different characters, and even see scenes that you wouldn't normally see in the theatrical cut. So hopefully you've enjoyed hearing me talk about the game. Now it's time to show you some of it in action. I'd like to show you one of the scenes that marks the start of things getting much more worse for our team, as if getting shot at and falling through the ground wasn't bad enough. So the scene starts as our characters are pitched into the depths after an earthquake. They've been split up, disorganised, and don't really know where they are. In the theatrical cut, our playable character here is Nick, one of the Force Recon Marines sent to search for WMDs. In the Curator's cut, you play as his buddy Jason. Finding himself underground, Nick starts to navigate his way through the tunnels looking for his comrades. As he works his way towards Jason, he soon finds out that they're not the only ones down there. In the Curator's cut, Jason also finds himself underground and separated from the group. As the story plays out, he's presented with different choices. Jason outranks Nick. Does he act large and in charge to keep discipline? Or does he pay attention to what his friend is saying, no matter how crazy it may sound?
You pull your shit together right now before you get us both killed.
So I hope you've enjoyed this short video on House of Ashes, and I look forward to you getting your hands on it. Please check out our channels for more information, look after yourselves, and keep both feet on the ground, because you never know when it's going to fall out from underneath you.